Greetings, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Dreamscapes. Today we have our friend Jesse Fisco from Salt Lake, Utah. He is an entrepreneur, business coach, and you can find him at Instagram at Mr. Utah Real Estate. Back to him in 2 seconds. Would you kindly please like, share, subscribe, tell your friends. Always need more volunteer dreamers. Get a t-shirt, a coffee mug. Join me on locals.com if you want to become a sustaining contributor. I need someone to play De Medici to my Da Vinci. Yes, I think highly of myself sometimes. Also, BenjaminTheDreamWizard.com and 15 currently available works of historical dream literature. That's the shilling. Always get that out of the way at the top. Back to Jesse. Thank you for being here. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks, Ben, so much. This is awesome opportunity, and I'm excited to be here today.
Nice, good deal. So what is Mr. Utah Real Estate? You want to tell me about that a bit?
Yeah, so kind of just it's been an old username or handle for forever. I'm a real estate agent, business coach, and just seemed fitting at the time. You know, if you want to be the top in your space, you just own it and you just start going with it, right? So there you go.
For sure. So you started being just a real estate agent and kind of worked your way up to then coaching other real estate agents how to be successful?
Yeah, for sure. So I started off as a real estate agent about 7 years ago, and it's kind of evolved into, I still have my real estate company, but it's evolved to 7 other LLCs. And now I coach entrepreneurs and just help them a lot of what the mental programming, right? A lot of people feel like they can't reach a certain destination or they have dreams, right? That's why we're here. And those dreams and that mental programming can help them get to that next level. And so that's what I help entrepreneurs. Even those that are not entrepreneurs, but aspiring entrepreneurs, help them get to that point as well.
For sure. So my specialty is people bring me their, nocturnal dreams, these involuntary visions that they have in their own mind, examining their own life and their own problems. And then in a way, I'm a dream coach. I'm like, I walk them through the process of trying to see what they were trying to show themselves more clearly. I understand that kind of opening the way. But for other folks that help people in more practical application of stuff in waking life, I'm always fascinated by the process, and a lot of people have similarities, but I don't know if you have a formula or approach you use that seems to have dialed in your process better. I don't know what you would say about that.
Yeah, I mean, most of the time, if you ask someone what they want, they'll go straight to telling you what they don't want, right? Well, I don't want this. And it's like, well, no, you need to be very specific with what you want. And then as far as the dream aspect goes, like we encourage them to do a meditation to envision their future self, right? For those that are interested in like the actual theory, it's called quantum leap jumping, where you're essentially getting very, very deep in a meditative state and jumping forward in time to meet yourself.
Nice.
Really cool. Very, very deep meditative practice, but some of the greatest ideas and concepts happen when you are focusing on who you want to become as opposed to the things you're running away from.
For sure. And I love the reference to the show. It was one of my favorite shows as a kid. Dr. Samuel Beckett theorizing that he could travel in time within his own lifetime. Then he becomes all kinds of different people. And that is what we do in our imagination. We test out, what if I became someone different? That's kind of, I don't know if you're a fan of Jordan Peterson at all, but he's very famous for saying a lot of things. But one of his conceptions is that our ability to imagine from an evolutionary perspective is like, let's use the power of what if and the ability to think into the future to say, well, what do I think is going to happen if I try this particular path? Hey, that didn't work out so well. So we let the dream, the imagination, the idea of ourself die and try a different path in our head, all of this without ever having to risk our actual physical lives.
Right.
So the idea of the guided meditation thing, or at least focused meditation, is fascinating.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. And you mentioned Jordan Peterson. I definitely have got some of his concepts in my training programs. I help with entrepreneurs, but a lot of it, like you said, it's just focusing on who you want to become and then going towards that, starting to make the decision. And oftentimes we see people say, what if in the negative, like, what if this happens? It's like, well, no, what if this happens, right? And the positive, like what could change if you just took that courage and that leap of faith in essence? So really cool. And it's interesting because they correlate really well. And I was excited to be on this show because oftentimes when you're doing a lot of meditations, your unconscious mind starts to like gravitate and teach you things and open things up. And it usually opens up when you're sleeping, because that's when it's the most subtle. There's melatonin, and it's in I believe, a theta brain state, right? Very high level brain state and thinking. So super cool.
For sure. And this overlaps very interesting with, say, some of Freud's earlier theories and how he applied and his successors applied psychoanalytic counseling. Sometimes he would have patients that would come to him and would say, well, Dr. Freud, I don't have a dream to share with you. And he says, we're going to make one up. So you just let yourself go into that kind of meditative state and you tell yourself a fantasy story, whatever it is. And then you can analyze that, and it helps open up, how do I look at these problems? What do I think about myself in relation to them? So even just imagining a fantasy voluntarily, in a sense, with a kind of free association element to it, tremendously beneficial. So, what you're doing is validated by over 100 years of psychology as well.
Super cool. Yeah, I'm not a licensed psychologist. I'm just very, very passionate. And the things that I help other entrepreneurs do, man, like they apply so well in business. And not only that, but in life in general, right? Feeling more of an abundance mindset, just feeling happy with who you are and who you're becoming. There's nothing better than that when you're all aligned.
For sure. Yeah. And that's one of the great things about psychology is it's, in a way, it's like math, but not. But what I mean is that a lot of the principles, they just work if you understand them, if you apply them correctly. So you don't need a degree. The degree helps formalize it in a way and saying, okay, this person actually knows how to apply some of these principles, but literally anyone can do it. So a lot of the self-help industry, just in general, which actually started at around the time, late 1800s, I think, when I was starting to, a lot of the books that I reproduce, the historical dream literature, it's just sharing these tips and tricks of how to interact with life and get the success you're looking for. So you honestly, you don't know. I mean, there's no licensure to be a dream wizard. I'm just doing things that if they work, they work. If someone gets a benefit from it, it doesn't need actually a degree at all. And certainly no permission from any government to just reach out a hand and say, I think I might know something that could help you. And you just do it.
Well, and what a cool tagline too, or like a persona of a dream wizard. That's really cool to me. So I love it.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, it all goes back to the idea of not just say Gandalf and other famous wizards, the icon archetype of wizard, but it goes back to like Socrates, just asking questions, the entire Socratic method. Well, tell me about that more. I can understand you. I can understand the way you see the world. And now we can challenge some assumptions if they're not working for you. I mean, in your own way, I think there's many kinds of wizards. Like my dad, I consider him a mathematician, a structural engineer. I can't grok that. That's beyond me. He's definitely got a specialty I don't, in the way his mind works. So yeah, wizardry is kind of what you do in a way rather than who you are. And you become it by doing it. So
I love it. Love it.
That's my thing. Well,
awesome.
I know you're a little bit tight on time today, so we can keep talking for a little bit more if that's okay, or we can jump right into the dream thing and try and give you a good answer today.
Yeah, let's jump in. I've got an interesting one for you.
Nice.
So,
okay.
And so the dreams kind of started off as like myself going down like a old dirt road. And as I got to this dirt road, I was met by almost like a Sherpa, or very, very interesting fellow. Maybe like a higher meditative being, I guess. And he's missing both legs. That was what was so ironic to me. And him becomes kind of like walking on I don't know the proper term, but on the nubs of his knees, and takes his cane, points it to one of my knees, and says, "Hey, you have an injury here." And like I was almost like very consciously aware of what was going on. I wasn't meditating. I for sure was asleep. And I told him, "Yeah, I know. I have a torn meniscus in this knee. I need to work on it." And then he invites me into his house. His house was super, super smelly, like really, really gnarly. And he pulls me into this room, and as you could kind of tell, like it was almost like he was a healer, like with chakras, and like there was some very vague imagery of the 7 chakras and the colors associated with it. And as I looked around the room more, there was a bunch of scratches on the wall. And I was like, what the heck are all these scratches, man? Like, this is crazy. What am I getting myself into? Like, I'm in this weird area by myself with this guru. And I'm now in this room. This house smells terrible. It's run down and there's scratches everywhere. So I asked this guru, I said, what are the meanings of these scratches on the wall? And this hit me like crazy when he just said, scratches on the wall is your body's natural state of keeping you safe. And so when you're trying to go outside of your comfort, your body starts to react and act in a different way. He said in some cases, the people that come here to meditate are in a deep state, but they're scratching the wall because their body's fighting who they're trying to become. It was really, really like, wake you up at 3 a.m. Holy crap, what just happened? Like, what was that? And it's been stuck with me for honestly like about 3 weeks now. And it keeps reminding me. And I think I have like some, like, obviously he told me a little bit of like, as I'm trying to break through in my life, different areas, but I'm excited to hear what you have to say.
Sure. Yeah. No, that's a great one. Lots of cool imagery there. You saw I was writing furiously, getting the hand cramp thing.
Love it.
I almost have my own secret code. I just write so sloppily when I go fast. I can barely read it myself. No one else has a chance. So
that's all right.
If anyone ever found my notes, they wouldn't be able to, what the hell is this word?
That's awesome. I'm the same way, right? You just write to go with it.
You got to go. Yeah. I don't want to interrupt the flow too, because people are in their memory. They have a story to tell, and I get as many details as I can. That is the benefit of what we do next, which is going back through it in a little more detail. You're going to tell me things I missed. You're going to find things you missed that you didn't know were there. You're going to go, wait a minute. Now I'm seeing something else. It happens every time. So you are the first image or experience you have in the dream is you're walking down a dirt road.
Yep. It's kind of veering off of like a main road, almost like freeway or a busier road. And then there's this little dirt road that we pull the car off to sit like, and I was with someone. I don't know who I was with. But then like it ended up, I was just with someone in that moment. And then that person disappeared as I went into the home. And so,
okay.
Pull over the car on the dirt road and we start to walk, and we probably walked like, I don't know, 100, 200 yards, not a long walk.
So, the first impression you have is that you are traveling in a car.
Yes.
And you have just pulled off of the main road, in a way, the path less traveled. It's not paved. It's out of the way. It's diverging from where most other people travel. They're following the same road, high traffic. You're getting off of that. So you're right from the very beginning, your brain is saying, imagine this is some not exactly unique experience, but it is definitely that road less traveled type of thing with less, and the way isn't smooth either. It's going to be bumpy. It's rocky road, literally a dirt road. Very interesting. You got that framing right off the bat. And you are traveling with someone. Are you driving, or are they driving and you're the passenger?
I was driving.
You were driving. Okay. I
was driving my Porsche. I just bought it. So
for real? That's the imagery. Yeah. It is a brand new Porsche.
It's my brand new car.
And this is the car you have in real life.
Yes. It's the exact same car I have in real life. Yep. Jump out. And that's why we walked it, is because the Porsche was low to the ground. We weren't aware. And so we parked it right off onto the gravel and started walking.
Very interesting here. So you've shown yourself a rare, expensive, high status item. It's from real life, but you're on a path where this status symbol, in a way, this luxury. I mean, you could have had an old beater truck that was ready to romp on off road, but no, you've got this thing, and you have to actually abandon it to make progress. That's an interesting symbology too. It's just not suited for this path you're showing yourself you need to travel, or that you think there's something useful down this path. Did you have any idea why you were traveling down the path? Did anything come to you like you're trying to get somewhere specific?
Oh, it was to this person. I didn't know of him. I just knew I had to go here.
Okay. There was, yeah. So you just had that feeling. And I tell this to people too. Seeing an image or a scene play out in a dream is the same as instantly knowing something because it's all not taking place physically. So there's really no difference between you see a person, you see the description, instantly you know who he is. He doesn't have to say anything.
Right.
Very interesting. So you actually stopped the car because it was not suited to the road you needed to travel. You had a destination to go. The vehicle you had at that moment couldn't take you there. That when I start drawing points of connection too, now we've got the scratches in the hut, and it feels like it's very similar to the Porsche thing. You know, it's abandoning something that isn't working to go further the way you need to go. Very, very interesting, and fighting against that in a way that, and there was no reluctance to get out of the car. You're like, let's leave it here. It's all good.
Yeah. Knew exactly. Like it was almost like, and this wasn't the idea, but it was almost like, you know, when someone gives you an address and says, go here, right? Like, and you just go because you trust your friend. It was like that kind of feeling of like, I'm just going here. Oh, dirt road. We're just going to park the car. We're going to walk to this house. We can literally see the house from the road. Like I said, it wasn't very far.
Gotcha.
So we just walk.
Yeah, for sure. And there's no reluctance to leave the vehicle. It is, you're not struggling with that decision. You're just looking at it like, this took me as far as I need to go for now. It's not going to get me the rest of the way, so I leave it. Very in line with the idea of a spiritual healer, 7 chakras type of let go of material things that are not forwarding your spiritual process. Very, very interesting. So you walk maybe about 100 yards and you see the guy, and he's there in front of his house.
So we see the door, knock on the door, and he opens it.
Okay.
Like I said, sitting there on his knees, like his legs were cut off to his knees.
So I want to just for a minute talk about the traveling up to the house scenery. Sure. Around him, you know, we're grassy plains, forest, mountains, and trees.
It's kind of just dead, like Utah weather. Like everything's just kind of dead, sagebrushish, like almost like all had come and gone, and it was winter before the snow. You know, it's like brown, dead, almost like current time, like what I'm experiencing here right now. This is the current temperatures we're dealing with. So.
Gotcha. Yeah. And it's very, very common as we've seen. You've got your car from real life. You've got the Utah scenery. So you're showing yourself familiar ideas that you immediately conceptualize, you know, where you're at, you know, what you're dealing with. Sometimes those elements get changed intentionally to show us, well, look at this from a different perspective. Take yourself out of your normal environment. So this is all more related directly to real life. This is actually something applicable or immediate you're dealing with. I think that the brain was like, don't throw in too many distractions. Stay focused in a way.
Right.
The message is going to be in some of the other weird imagery. That's where it gets interesting. So it's kind of setting the scene. Yeah, and we would say it's almost as relevant when things are different as when they're not. So it gets more interesting when they're not. But so how would you describe the house from the outside?
Also, it's just kind of like tattered, like run down, peeling paint. Door was like, I don't know why. Like I can't remember specifically the door, but it kind of had like this like arch shape, almost like a wizardry type of like, I don't know, a very, very like medieval time arch, I guess. Wood door, like really, really faded. Paint, just feeling it was just a rundown house for sure.
Gotcha. And then your general size shape, and we're talking 2-story, we're talking, you know, mud hut.
I think like two bedroom, 1 bath bungalow type of house, like 1900s to 1950. You know, since I'm in real estate, right, I can get kind of specific, but wood, like painted wood exterior, and the paint's just peeling off. It's white outside, and the paint's just like dusty, dirty. Windows look like, you know, really old, the old pane windows with the wood. Just an old freaking house.
You would say right off the bat, being in real estate, this does not have a lot of curb appeal. People would not look at this and go, this is a place I want to buy based on the exterior.
This is one of those houses you go, okay, I need to flip this.
Right?
For everyone's sake. Yeah.
And
absolutely.
then just to compare and contrast maybe with the interior, did the interior seem to match the exterior, or was it a little more well kept, or was it completely different? Like it didn't look like
it was different. It was totally different. You walk in and you walk into this room and the house just smells like, and the guy himself just smelly, ragged clothing, beard, like just, like, I don't know. It just very interesting. Like you could tell he was so confident in himself, but the external was like not his priority. And that was really interesting. But yeah, you walk into the home, you walk into a room, and then he takes you to the back of the house. And the back of the house is this, like, that's where the room was, where you were going to go meditate. And I know specifically in my mind, I'm like, I'm here to learn something higher. Like I could tell I was there to learn something more valuable.
Yeah.
And so like I totally trusted the guy, even though I was like, who is this guy? You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. And I want to focus on that too. So you knock on the door, or did you just kind of open it, or did he open it for you?
We knocked, he opened, and the first thing he did was point at my knee, right? Like
That's right.
And he just said, hey, you've got an issue here. And at which point, it was almost like he was trying to like establish trust with me, like show me. I don't know, like if that's truly the case, but like when you meet someone and they are building sincere credibility with you really quick, and that's pretty much what he did. Is he just said, "Hey, your knee has an issue," and I'm like, "Yep, I'm well aware of that. It's a meniscus." Like I recognized it too, which I do in real life have a torn meniscus, and I just keep ignoring it. Because I can still walk and move.
Okay.
And then there's kind of the thought of like, bro, that's kind of bold of you to say because like you don't have any knees yourself, right? Like,
yeah, no, that's exactly
my
where
smart
I was
aleck
going with that.
humor, right? Like, okay, cool. Like, good for you to point that out, but like, bro, you don't have knees yourself. Oh, maybe that's just to kind of show like my arrogance, or like my feeling of like I am, I do think highly of myself because I've had a lot of success and hit my goals, therefore naturally just have more confidence than others. So maybe that was what I thought was confidence manifesting in that thought,
Maybe so. And that's a great way to conceptualize it. And if these instinctive understandings come to you after the fact, there's probably something there. So in the sense, like this guy doesn't exist. This is a piece of how you view a certain problem or idea, how you conceptualize things, speaking to you. So that's the great thing about dreams is it's all you talking to yourself. Even when you put those words in the mouths of other people, and you put those words in their mouth from that perspective for a reason. And it's definitely, we got this contrast, as you were saying, the guy with no legs is telling you, you got a knee problem. Really? Where's he coming from? And you're like, whoa, that's bold. But also you thought this is establishing trust in a way. He's being real with you. He's calling it like he sees it. He's not bullshitting you. And that gives you that level of trust of like, you know what? He didn't say that very nicely. And this isn't the social courtesy. It's not the first thing you say to someone. You say, welcome. Would you like to come in? Can I get you something? He jumped over all of that and said, I know why you're here. You got a knee problem. Let's do this.
Yeah. And that's how I respond naturally. I respond really well to people just like, hey, this is what I want. And it's like, cool, let's go get it. Right. Yeah. And so like naturally I just respond well to that type of personality. So when he comes in and says, hey, you have a knee problem, I'm like, yeah, I know I do. But like, we're here for like, this is exactly why I'm here. I don't know fully why, but I'm here for not the knee problem, but for something. And that's why I trust you and I'm here. Right. I wouldn't be wasting my time if I wasn't that you're showing up, if I didn't know that you were highly recommended or very important.
Definitely. So you've got a place, if we go kind of back to the beginning, just briefly and kind of run through the narrative so far, you're going off the beaten path in a way. The vehicle that you cherish in a way, a status symbol, a treat for yourself. You've set it aside. Like that's not important. It's not going to take me where I need to go. It's very much a dirt road back to very simple, basic, something in that dirt road analogy too. We're going to get more out of that. But, and then you come up to a place that's got no curb appeal. This is not what people look. I mean, the contrast between the rundown house and the porch, you had to leave the porch aside and actually go to a place that nobody's going to find this appealing. No one's going to look at this and say, I want that. Your first thought was, wow, I'd have to flip it and fix this up to make other people appreciate it. But you know, you're there for a reason. You know, there actually is something of value on the inside, and you're there to meet the guy, and you're not surprised to see him, and you value that he was direct, blunt, honest with you, immediately established trust. You know, you're in the right place. Any other description of him other than, you know, he's a little ramshackle, like the house too, not well put together, not someone you'd look at and go, you know, smart business suit, polished teeth, that kind of thing.
Right. I was gonna say, like, you handle the beard and the hair very well. This guy, no. Like, this guy just not, like, probably hasn't showered in like 15 days. You know, like, just, you know.
And also, what strikes you is a strong odor in the house. I mean, that's a very prominent feature of the dream.
Yep. And the odor was like, it was bad, but once again, like, I just kept moving past it. Like, I'm not sitting there worrying about it. I'm like, holy crap, it stinks. But like, I was so determined it didn't matter.
Yeah. This is, you've got one of the rare dreams that features a smell that is highly unusual. I mean, we're talking like maybe 10% of everyone who remembers a dream ever mentions anything like smell or taste. And it varies. Like, people that do occasionally experience smells in dreams are more likely to experience smells in other dreams. People who never do, they stick with, you know, sights and sounds. Those are the most common thing.
Interesting.
Yeah. Also too, but it's another, you're piling on cues. You're looking at this thing like, how unappealing could something be and still be of tremendous value? And you added a layer of, wow, and it smells bad too. And you know, when you walk into a house and it's got black mold and other nasty, the previous owner smoked for 50 years in the house. Like, whoa, this is a problem that I would have to fix in order to make this valuable to anyone else. So you're showing all these reasons that would probably turn off someone else, cause someone else to abandon this. They don't want to go down the dirt road off the beaten path. They don't want to go into a rundown, dirty house. They don't want to deal with a guy who's rude and ugly and smelly. Oh, in the house, goddamn. But you're like, none of that matters. None of these purely physical, superficial things are, and I got a dog here. Superficial things are going to deter me. There is something of value here. I'm not going to miss it. I'm not going to poo-poo it for the exterior, for the superficial.
Right.
Yeah. I love that. That's all great images, and it all piles up too. And just to say briefly, I know what a torn meniscus is like. Had surgery myself back 15 years ago in 2007 to fix that chunk. That's no fun. Now my knee, I got a trick knee in terms of like, if I turn wrong, it pops out of joint and I got to put it back in, but at least it doesn't lock anymore. If you got a minute to take care of that, you might look into it. It's my personal advice. I think it does. It's usually better. They do it arthroscopically with a not a microscope, but one of those little, they feed it in little snippers, and they take care of it. So, and that was 15 years ago.
I definitely need to do it. I play a lot of basketball. So like the longer I play, it's just, like at night times it will lock and like 3 a.m. or 2 a.m.
Yeah. That tears you out of sleep. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's definitely something I need to focus on. And it's been happening more frequently too, which is ironic that it gets pointed out in the dream. Right. Like, so
for sure. Now I don't think that could be the core of the dream necessarily, but it's definitely an important element of, he knows you're bringing yourself to him, and he points out an injury, points out something that you maybe haven't addressed that you should. So there's an element to that in the trusting the mystic wise man type of archetypal experience, the hero's journey style. He's going to show you something you really don't want to look at, because that's part of the road to overcoming what's holding you back. So probably that was thrown in there by your mind going, you really should take care of this. The wiser, deeper part of yourself saying, don't put this off anymore. And then, but also saying, this is indicative of something else. Maybe this is actually kind of a trend, that there's maybe something you're living with that's less than ideal. that, it's not destroying you, but it's not letting you fully express yourself. So I think it's more probably a physical real world example of something metaphorical.
Love it.
Do you want down again? You just got up here. No, he's just going to lick the arm of my chair. Okay. Okay. So we haven't even gone past the front door, and he said he's walking on his stumps and he's got a cane. Any memory of the cane?
Yep. Yeah. Cane's just kind of withered, like almost like chopped out a piece of wood, just kind of a makeshift. Like, once again, very, very simplistic, right? Like, we're not going anything fancy, just almost like putting off all of the like worldly things, right? And just being very, very basic with the situations and things that he has.
Oh yeah, that very much resonates with me. I'm the kind of guy that's, I'll go, if possible, 5 years between buying a new pair of shoes because they still fit, they still work, they haven't worn through. They look old, they look worn, they look dirty sometimes, and I can't clean them as well as I used to because they just don't clean up very well. But I'm very much a if it were, I got t-shirts with holes in them. I try not to wear them on the stream, but it's one of those things where I was like, it still works. I'm not messing around with buying new stuff. I'm very much not into the exterior appearance as much as I did grow out my hair to look more like a wizard. Sometimes you got to go with the branding, but if it serves a useful purpose is definitely the thing. You do want down. What are you doing? You want up?
I think one of the biggest things since we're there, like with my coaching, I tie the materialistic item as a sense of accomplishment. Like, I help people work towards something that they never thought that they could have, right? So if it's a fancy car and that's truly what motivates that individual, and that motivation will take them to the next level. Yeah. Right? Because they know what it feels like, sounds like, smells like, right? Like all the sensory, maybe that's why it comes in. Like a lot of the things that I was seeing through this dream were the same things I was teaching. It was ironic that here I'm not searching for anything at a higher level to give me that confidence to show myself that I'm creating the reality I want. I'm going for something that's higher purpose. Yeah. Well, this very much, when we were talking a little bit ago about the idea that the basic psychological principles just work for anybody if you understand them. You don't have to have a degree. You just got to kind of get it. And there's you might have heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Yep. And the base level is you got to have a life to live. That means you need to not die. I mean, dead people don't have a life to live or anything to aspire to. So food, shelter, all the basics of physically sustaining yourself. And then you start moving up to, relationships and other accomplishments. And it's a very useful motivator, and it's a very real motivator to say, okay, I want to succeed to meet my basic needs. Then we do look for the next level and the next level and the next level. It's kind of what we do as humans. It keeps us moving. So there's, in my estimation, of course, there's nothing wrong with pointing to physical needs or an expression of a physical expression of accomplishment as a motivator to say, if this is what's going to get you moving down the right path, chase it for now. Nothing wrong with that. And get it. And then you can worry about what comes next, because you got to get someone moving in a direction. Goals got to be big enough for you to get moving. Exactly. Mm-hmm. And that's what I teach, whether it's an experience, whether it's a personal item. Like for some, it's a nice car. For others, it is a relationship, like getting married, finding the perfect one. So whatever the motivator is, it's got to be big enough to motivate you to get that. So very cool. Yeah. And definitely the whole time we've been kind of going through this dream of these, from where it started and where it's going to, there's near the top of the pyramid is the idea of self-actualization, which it can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And literally it does, but it is whatever makes you feel like you are living fully as yourself, doing things that are meaningful, purposeful to you, accomplishing something of real value. There's like physical things that have a monetary value, and there's ideas, principles, moral stuff is a lot of, where a lot of people go. No, he wants me to throw his babies. That's where people go once they've got their physical and relationship needs. Man, it's like, I got a house, I got a car, I got a wife. Now what do I do? And a lot of people go to kids to give them meaning and purpose, or
we build other things. We're not really satisfied to just exist. It's got to be kind of a reason for it. And that's where you go see the legless mystic in his hovel, and he takes you into the meditation room. Any other descriptions of the kind of living room area that
nothing that comes to mind? Yeah, nothing comes to mind. We went very quickly through the living room straight to the meditation room.
No strong impressions other than the smell and the guy himself.
Yep.
Anything
dark. I guess it was just all kind of dark. Like,
okay.
So walking to that room, you couldn't really, like, you could see, but it was almost like you're walking through a home. It's like getting a little bit late, and it's about time to turn on the lights, but you just still kind of walk through.
Fair enough. Yeah. No, I had that experience literally this morning. I was sitting outside and playing on my phone, and it's a bright morning. I come in here and I hadn't turned all the lights on yet. I couldn't see shit. Like, I had to start turning on lights in order to get to this, where we're at right now. Okay. So very often the things you don't show yourself are just not relevant. I mean, you've gotten yourself inside the house. He doesn't bring you into the living room. You sit down, have a cup of tea. He actually takes you to a separate room. The environment that transitions to that room is not as important as the room itself. Do you remember coming to the door, opening it yourself?
Yeah. Door was a wood door. Once again, arched as well. It was like a chamber type of thing. It was bigger door because, and this is just coming to me, like you mentioned, a lot thicker, a lot bigger. And I'm assuming it has to do with the scratches on the wall, right? Like, people may want to try to get out, but no, like a big door. It's meant to keep people in the room. That one just came back to my mind. That's cool.
Yeah. Oh, I love.
I haven't analyzed a dream before, so this is sweet.
Yeah. No, I think it's a fascinating process, and I love that too. And honestly, we've been going for a little while, and we've got a lot of great detail, and I've asked you a ton of questions. I really don't have an answer for you yet. We haven't gotten there. We're still fine. We're kind of getting close, but like if we stopped right here and you asked me, okay, what does it mean? I'd be like, I have no idea. This happens to me every time. And I have to remind myself, don't panic. It's right that at this moment you don't have an answer. You're not there yet.
It will come.
Yeah. No, for sure. So, thicker, bigger door. It's like what's inside is even more impressive in a way. It's more solid and tangible. It's more important than certainly the exterior, even the guy. I mean, all of these cues of low value in a way, but irrelevant, but like almost that's kind of why the mountain mystics used to hide in a cave. It's like, I don't want it to be too easy for people to come and bother me. I got a lot of deep thinking to do. So if you're going to get here, you're going to sweat for it. And when you get here, I might not make you feel very welcome, but you wanted to be here. You wanted to ask me a question. Let's go, that kind of thing. Go ahead.
Oh, no, that's exactly what it was like. The whole feeling was just like, yep, I'm here because I want to be here. And that was the coolest part. Yeah. And that's something with the, all these metaphors too. It's like a lot of the ancient Chinese masters of Kung Fu would put their temple way up on a mountain. It's like, if you really want to come and train, you're going to work to get here. And then the real work begins. When I was taking Aikido, they said accomplishing your black belt was the sign that you are now a serious beginner. Like, whoa, because then there's 8 levels of black belt beyond that, right? Wow. Yeah, that's incredible.
That's why I never got a black belt. I'm just gonna have a chubby guy that sits in his room. So, but I tried for a minute. Also, it's also kind of a humbling experience. We mentioned Peterson a little bit ago, and he one of his phrases I remember is that the fool is the precursor to the savior. You have to be empty. You have to empty or humble yourself and say, there's more I need to learn. Then you can embody the person who has learned and can now carry that forward. So there's something about humbling yourself, seeking an answer from something that appears on the exterior to have no value according to the material world. That very much fits with that motif. Okay, so back to the room itself, and you've got this thing, and you remember pulling the door open?
The door open, and we walk in. There's sand on the floor. So it's I remember like taking off my shoes, because like it made no sense walking with shoes in the sand. It was just heavy, right? Like your feet would just sink. So I took off my shoes. And then there was like, once again, just kind of like the whole room. It was a rectangular room, and it was covered in wood. And the wood was like really dark aged wood, but you could definitely tell like where it had been scratched, and the scratch marks showed like a very fresh wood. Like, so you could tell that the wood had been aged, but like people were scratching down to where it had like the wood had not had a breath of life or been exposed to air. So it was deep, like really, really deep, and the whole entire room was scratched. Like there had to been like thousands of people that have been in this room scratching the wall.
And you said we entered as far as this. He came in there with you, at least at first?
Yes. Yeah. He came in. So once again, the person I was with at the door, they're gone. Like they're no longer there. And it's just me with this guru walking into this room. And yes, there were people in the room once we got there that were kind of sitting there meditating, like almost like waiting for me. But the person I came with, I don't know who it was, but they weren't there anymore.
So the person who came with you, yeah, and it's you're traveling in the car, and then you get, whether they disappeared or stayed with the car, or never came to the front door, almost doesn't matter. But I think there is something significant in there of like, I'm gonna have to go the rest of the way alone. Like bringing someone with me is not going to help. It's not going to hurt, maybe, but it's not. Maybe it would hurt.
I like that.
Something like that. It's like, whatever I got to do, I'm the only one that can do this. So you maybe showed yourself like, I'm usually around other people, but this, I got to do it. I got to do it myself.
Love it.
Yeah. So you came there, and the kind of dirty hermit, he came into the room also with you, or he stayed at the door?
It was almost like, no, he came in with us, and it was almost like I was the last person to be in the room. Like they were waiting on me. And there were 3 people sitting down on like beach towels, right? Just like very, like not even a yoga mat, just very raggedy towels. 2 people sitting there. They were in like the meditative pose, right? Like their legs crossed, sitting straight up. And I'm in there just kind of talking to this guru, getting ready to do the meditation with these other 3 people. And I just asked him, like, what are the scratches on the wall? And that's when he, said, hey, it's because when your body is resisting change. And so when you're here, your body may do funny things like scratch the wall or like be resistant towards you trying to do this.
Gotcha. So, and it was kind of you said a rectangle, and I would assume short on the door end, long towards the far end.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you see anything on the far end?
No, nothing on the far end, just scratches, right? And that was the whole room, like 360 view of the room. Everything was scratched up really, really bad. You had the beach towel, the 3 people, and then there were some like colors in the room, like I said, that represented the chakras. Different colors. And then
how were those distributed? Were they like painted in stripes on the wall, or
exactly
all the way around?
Like kind of like stripes. Like I would think of this room like a jail cell, like really just, or like a haunted house, right? Like you walk in and it's just like, holy crap. But yeah, like just the colors, where someone had just taken a paintbrush and just like painted it on the wall. There was no like uniform or anything. It was just colors of the chakras, but they were just kind of in the room, or like painted on the walls or just involved there.
I do want to see that a little more clearly in my head if I can. Is it almost, you said like someone just took a paintbrush and kind of swiped it on the wall?
Right. Like they just kind of went down, and some like veered off, some went straight down, and some went, well, they're just messy. Like just
gotcha.
Different colors, but like it just represented all of the 7 chakras.
Were they only on one wall, or did they repeat on different walls?
This particular wall had all 7, and that was the only one that stood out. And it was the wall that was the wall where the guru was going to sit and present.
So it was actually at the far end of the room.
The far end of the room behind him. Yeah.
Okay. But it was a messy painting of the chakras, and they weren't like, if you look at the images we've had of like where they're very orderly and they glow around a particular area and they lead to the top. And this was just, you got these chakras and they overlap and they're all over. Don't worry about that. They're there. We know what they are, but they're not what you think they are. They're not that orderly. They're not that pretty. Really,
right.
If we think about it too, we move back and forth. Conceptually, we move back and forth between different chakras and they interact with each other in certain ways. We get little permutations. So the idea that they're, that fits very much with the theme of this, things being messy, run down, the exterior appearance. And even when you get into the interior, the secret behind the guru, I was actually looking at the idea of that there was no altar or pulpit exactly, but there is, in a sense, you did finally mention it, the idea that, well, the guru is going to sit there and kind of behind him on the wall is this representation. What do you think of when you think of the chakra stuff? I mean, we haven't gotten into your particular religious or spiritual orientation.
I definitely think I've done quite a bit of study on chakras, especially like if you've heard of Dr. Joe Dispenza and some of his ideas of becoming supernatural and aligning the chakras. Like, I do think that regardless, people focus on what would be the three main chakras, which is their health. Or sorry, not their health, but their idea is their love. If they're not feeling love, then it's like the need of wanting things like just basic survival. And if it's not survival, it's an emotional trauma that they've experienced. And that's where three people spend most of their time and energy, therefore neglecting the four other chakras that, the creativity, the wellness in your body, those things. So, as far as chakras, I haven't done a ton of study in them, but it's been something that's like, as I'm reading more and I'm studying more, it kind of just appear, right?
Sure.
So,
yeah. And this is one of the important elements of dream work, or specifically, or any other kind of counseling and therapy in that vein, is that it actually doesn't matter whether you are absolutely correct in your description of chakras and how they work and what's really going on there. What matters is that is your conceptualization, however you describe it. And then that pops up in the dream to say, well, because you understand this thing from this perspective, here's how to see it in this broader context.
Like that.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's why I talk about folks where it's like, I can do dream interpretation with people that have a strongly Christian perspective, even though I am not literally a practicing Christian or Catholic or whatnot, because it doesn't matter what I think. This is all inside your head from your own perspective. All you gotta do is tell me what you see, and then we look at it through that lens. So I think this is the fact that this is at the very bottom end, the deepest, most inner part. The focus comes to a point here is where the journey itself will draw its meaning from. You never actually got to the point where the guy sits down and starts, or did you begin the process?
He does.
Okay.
And that's when I woke up.
Okay.
So the minute he's like, close your eyes, take a deep breath. Like, I'm sitting there, I'm getting ready to meditate. And then it's almost like, the movie, like it's some of the movies where they just like fast forward really fast, like everything else just like wipes away and then you're like wide awake.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what happened. I was like, what the heck was that?
Bam. Yeah.
But it just stayed with me.
And what was your feeling when you woke up? How would you describe that?
Oh, curiosity, straight from the get-go. Like, what was that? And then that morning, it was 3 a.m. I woke up. And I usually get up at 4:30 and go to the gym. So I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to stay up. And I just stayed up, thought about it, got ready, went to the gym, spent the rest of the day doing my thing. But I thought that dream hasn't really left my mind. Talked to my wife about it, and she's just like, what the freak was that? Like, what do you listen, or what, what's going on? I'm like, I don't know, but there was something more to it that I needed to learn from. And so as I've continued to like think about it, like, you start to dabble and go, oh, I wonder if it's like, oh, leaving behind the worldly for something more purposeful. I don't know, right? Like things like that you
Yeah.
start to think about.
I mean, all through this, I have had the basic idea that you've one possible idea, and we're gonna put that on the table, and we'll see what happens.
Sure.
But there's other
Yeah.
stuff. The idea of you've probably it seems like reached a point in your life where you're like, I got the material shit figured out. I got a relationship, and you're moving up the hierarchy of needs. And that's why I brought it up earlier to kind of throw it into the mix, and it kind of resonated with you a little bit there.
I'll say this.
Yeah.
I had a not a blow up, but I had a disagreement with someone that brought up Maslow's needs last week. And this dream happened 3 weeks ago.
Gotcha.
But like I was familiar with Maslow's needs, but then when there was a disagreement there, I went and read more about it. So it's ironic. No, I don't believe in coincidences, but it's ironic that last week there was Maslow's needs, and then you're bringing it up again. Maybe I need to study that a little bit more.
Definitely. So, yeah. No, I think it's a very, and there's people who take issue with it and conceptualize things differently. And there's in some ways, what we don't want to do is canonize psychological theory in the way of a religious explanatory system for humans and how we're supposed to behave in the world. It appears to follow certain patterns, and there's deviations. So anyway, it's one of those things where it's like you take it for what it is, and it works from a certain perspective.
And this disagreement was more like I went very, very broad and like a chunked up method of like all things are created out of atoms and the material of atoms. Therefore, are all things material? Therefore, what is materialism? Right.
Sure.
So I went very, very broad, and that struck a chord with him because he's like, well, you're saying food is materialistic. And at that point, like, then he brought in Maslow's, and it was just a misunderstanding more than anything. Cause I went very, very broad on one of the videos I'll post just to get people to think, right. Mm-hmm. I believe that most people are just not broadening their horizon or their awareness enough to even consider their possibilities. So I go online and I'll post some things that very broaden the horizon. So when he brought that up, it was interesting. Like we had to kind of, like I said, it wasn't an argument, just kind of like a misunderstanding of like, all right, we're bringing this all back together because I chunked up so broad that it just like, it obviously struck a chord. So
definitely. Yeah. And those are the great things. It's like, why do we, there's another show I listen to, shout out to Sitch and Adam out there. They talk about our, the elephant and the rider, our rider being our reason and intellect and, trying to guide this physical beast that we are inhabiting in a way. And the elephant being our reactive emotions and urges and drives and everything, subconscious in a way, the like the id, I think is how Freud would say it, and then we've got the ego and the superego society on top of that.
Yeah.
And then again, that's just one explanatory framework, kind of makes sense. We've moved a little bit beyond that to more complex models, but still resonates with people. And that's, most people are just kind of riding their elephant and letting it take them where it will, because they don't see a problem with that. It's kind of working for them. And then sometimes, the elephant starts trampling things that you value, and your rider wakes up and says, wait a minute, this is not what I want. I'm going to need to, get the elephant hook and say, hey, let's go left a little bit. Let's not trample on the things I value. I was going somewhere with that. Anyway, I love that analogy.
Oh, I do like that because it's true. At some point you wake up and go, I've got to take control of this. I'm the one that's driving this ship, right? And so
you realize you can make a choice.
Oh yeah, and it's liberating and euphoric for most people. And it's like, well, why is this so euphoric for you? You've always had this opportunity, but it's the discovery of you actually have control. Interesting,
for sure. And what the way I think where I was going with that was not to deride people as, oh, most of them just let their elephant go anywhere. It's like, as long as it's working. Most people don't have a reason to change what their elephant is doing until it becomes a problem, until it tramples something that they cognitively value or the elephant can even have regrets. It's a weird combination there with that too.
And I have to go listen to that. That sounds like a good one.
Yeah, interesting show. They do political commentary. I listen to that on the side. It's not anything I do on my show. It's all personal connection, and personally relevant imagery and dreams. And back to your dream. So, Okay, that was one idea of you're looking for the next level of this. But I also wanted to ask what was kind of going on in your life about 3 weeks ago when this dream happened. And some folks out there might say, Ben, why don't you ask that first and give context for the dream? I'm like, no, dream comes first.
Yeah.
Then we go back and look at, is this relevant to anything? And it may or may not be. And I don't want to set us up for the inappropriate focus off the bat. So I don't know what you might have to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, within the last 3 weeks, like I've taken my coaching program and kind of shifted priorities. Like I run 7 different businesses, and the more I have brought in awareness to other people and help them and have helped their businesses, the more I'm focusing on like evolving this coaching program into something greater than what I ever thought it would become. Like I help clients like to actually take this and now feel it pulling me physically to this direction, as opposed to the other 6 LLCs that I run. Like this one is really pulling me, and it's challenging a lot of my beliefs and the things that like I'm doing. Because when you're walking away from, like, I guess going back to the Porsche, maybe this is the answer. I don't know. We'll see. But like walking away from that Porsche, like that could represent almost like walking away from the success of these other businesses to go for something at a higher meaning for other people. And like that was interesting, and that's what I've been focusing on probably the last like 9 months, actually, to be honest with you, since I've launched my coaching, of just like pushing the envelope, learning more, studying more, becoming more aligned with myself. And the more I've done that, the more like these other businesses, they still matter, and I still have employees, but they're not the primary focus like they were.
Yeah, definitely. And that's exactly, and that actually lines up with that other stuff too. So you've got, I think and this is why I ramble, because the answers are not in my head, but I'm trying to get us to a point where something pops out of your own head in this. You've already had a desire to shift focus, and probably, so what is it? Anytime we do something new, there's going to be a learning process, and it's going to be a struggle, because if we already knew how to do it, we'd be doing it, but we got to learn as we go. And it takes dedication and effort and setbacks and struggles and confusion and all the stuff we don't want to deal with. But then we feel, that natural pull in a certain direction. It's like, there's something valuable about this to me. This feels important. And that makes the path worth treading, the suffering and the difficulty and the confusion. So to have this, so you possibly, a few weeks back when this dream came to you, you might have been dealing with particularly unpleasant things, or things that looked unpleasant from the outside, or felt unpleasant to say, I'm going to have to deal with that. I'm going to have to go, and so you get this imagery maybe that comes out of like, you got to leave behind the pleasant material things that make you happy on a superficial level, and go ahead and go into the dirty rundown place with the ugly guy and the smell, and sit on a sand floor on a raggedy towel and have an experience you cannot get anywhere else. And you probably want to claw your way out of it because it's going to be unpleasant to a degree, but you still took yourself there and put yourself in that room saying, even if I don't like this, but experience the process of it, there's something valuable to be gained from doing it. I'm rambling again. I don't know if any of that resonates with you.
Oh, totally. I mean, I think that anytime you are changing, right? Like your body itself is designed to keep you comfortable. It has been for however old you are, right? Like, so when you jump into an ice bath or jump off a cliff, your body sends signals to your brain like, dude, are you really going to do this? Right. And
why are you trying to kill me?
Yeah, like, bro, you're jumping in an ice bath. Why would you do that? Even if you've never jumped in an ice bath before, your body's sending that signal to your brain like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's stupid. And that's what's so interesting too about people is like, we have a preconceived idea before we've even tried something. And that could be based off of just our body feeling fearful because we're trying to change. And so, yeah, it's, I think that by going through the ideas of what's been happening and the changes, there's a lot of unknown. There's a lot of uncertainty as far as going more all in for others as opposed to myself. Therefore, like maybe my body is starting to feel a little like, bro, enough change already. Like,
Yeah.
we've pumped the brakes. We've done a lot already together, but this is insane. Cause like I'm all about improving yourself, improving like every aspect of your life. And I wouldn't say I've mastered that, but I definitely feel more aligned than I've ever felt in my life, which is what we all want, right?
For sure.
Happiest I've ever been. Then to go to something at an even higher degree starts to challenge, right? And there's always been that, man, is there an imposter syndrome here going on? Or oof, is this really idea, or should I go back to the car, per se?
Yeah. And that's a couple other things popped into my head is the idea of you didn't let the discomfort deter you. You went all the way in and you sat there and you were ready to start the process. You could have given up at any point and said, this house is nasty. I'm leaving. The dirt road, I don't want to get my shoes dirty. The smell, oh, I can't handle the smell. I'm out. I don't want to go into this room where people scratch the walls. That was the last image you saw there of like, this is your last chance to say, I don't want this, and bounce, because you've seen what other people have gone through, and it's going to be difficult in one way or another to the point that you're like, let me out of here. But you didn't do that. And you had no fear during the entire experience. I mean, you not once did you described, I was scared to go through. I second guessed whether this was really what I wanted. It was that curiosity. It was almost a stoic observation of the situation in a sense of like, you never felt you were in physical danger through the whole thing, right?
Right. I was completely confident with myself, right?
Yeah.
And because I was so confident with myself and knew that I had to be there, like, and it's the same thing with, like, I keep going back to this coaching thing.
Yeah.
But I know there are people that need certain things in their life to get to the next level. And because I know that so much, that knowledge, that like that empowerment that I feel, it almost feels like a higher element of like, now it's time for you to go give that back, as opposed to just holding it on to yourself. I think that's kind of what was motivating through that whole meditation, is like there was a higher purpose there than anything else that I've ever received, because I had to be at that moment.
Absolutely. Yeah. So in terms of, I just had a thought and I think I almost lost it. In terms of your business and the shift, the way I was conceptualizing it is like this dream was almost you, or it was literally you coaching yourself. Like, what would you tell a person in exactly your situation about what was important? And it seems to be you're kind of shifting from the material to more of a spiritual or meaning of life. That's very vague, but meaningful accomplishments versus material. And not that material things are great. It's the basis of everything. You got to have it. It's not enough. Right. It's not everything.
Right.
And you can't put that at the top of the pyramid. It always has to be at the bottom, the material sustenance and whatnot. So, right. I mean, if I were to give, and I don't typically do this, but how would it be useful to you? Probably leaning into the more spiritual side of, or at least this is what it seems to be. You're offering yourself the perspective. What if, would it be beneficial if I lean more into the spiritual side of the coaching aspect? Because you've done the material and now you're kind of leaving that behind and saying, okay, what do I tell my clients next? They've accomplished the material stuff. How can I continue to be useful? And it's like, I got to go to the next level. I got to go inside myself, find out what I value, understand the mess that's made of the chakra painting on the wall by meditating with a master who, honestly, it's very interesting. He's got no legs too. It's like, you don't have to go anywhere to do this. The guy that's got the answers, he doesn't even go anywhere. He barely gets around his own house. He's got no legs. Legs are very, very indicative of, we've got the Fisher King style of a leg wound, which is its own thing. But I think it's more movement, travel, the idea of, you didn't go to a long distance runner and run a marathon to get where you're going. This is not any kind of physical travel. It's all headspace is what's going to get you where you're going.
Man, that's cool to analyze. Like, we talk about like writing down your dreams and like thinking about it, like that's something that is really, really taught in a religious standpoint. If you have a dream, write it down. Like even prophets and Bibles, right? Like,
yeah, that was a
they
big
have a
thing
dream,
for
they write it down.
Thousands of years. Yeah.
Right. So it's interesting. And the reason why, of course, is the deeper knowledge that you and I are exploring right here. Like there's things that I'm looking at going, okay, that makes all the sense in the world. And that's really cool. So appreciate that. This is awesome.
That's what it's got to do. It's got to make sense to you. Like none of these answers, the answers, period, are not in my head. It was your dream. This is all you, and all I can do is kind of shine a light and say, if you looked at it this way, what if it means this? And then people go, whoa, I get it. I feel something right here. It's happening. And when you hit that, you know it. And it honestly can't be wrong, as long as it makes sense to you. So.
Oh, absolutely. I think that the no legs, that was one of the things that was stumping me. It's like, why does this guy have no legs? Like, is it just to show me like the humility? But no, it when you said like, you don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to walk. You can do this right here. Like, I think that was that moment of like, oh, okay, here we go. Right.
Yep.
I don't have to go prove or do anything different for myself. I just have to go right here, right where it needs to be.
It's all going inside. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love that. I thought of that earlier too, of like, well, what am I going to say about the legs? There's something there. And it finally came to me of like, yeah, I mean, it's because it's not a physical movement. It's not a physical movement. It's going to get you where you're going. But anyway, I know you're short on time. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. I was going to say, I never paid attention to how he moved the entire time. He just moved, which is
didn't even really seem to stump around. He just maybe even floated.
Oh, like, yeah, we were just there, but like, I wasn't even aware of like how he moved. It was just like, we're here. And I was so focused on just getting to the door. That's cool.
For sure. Yeah. Well, I wanted to say, because I know you're short on time and you wanted to keep it to about an hour. You feel like you've gotten a good enough answer? You don't have any additional questions?
Oh, I think that's very like eye-opening. I appreciate it. I mean, the more I think about it, the more that seems to just make all the sense in the world that like, listen, the confidence is there. You're not fearful of anything. It's just now going in and aligning and making a pretty much putting the pieces together of all the stuff that you need to do and go make it happen. That was really cool.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm glad we were able to get you something useful in a short time span. People notice I probably talked faster than I usually do. I'm like, let's do this. I gotta get it done for the sake.
I appreciate you being so accommodating today. Yeah.
Well, thank you for being here.
Awesome.
I appreciate your time. And we'll wrap it up with that, and I will go back. We'll go back to the beginning. We have had our friend here, Jesse Fisco from Salt Lake, Utah, entrepreneur, business coach. You can find him on Instagram at Mr. Utah Real Estate. Links in the description. For my part, I'll just say, would you kindly like, share, subscribe, tell your friends, t-shirt, coffee mug, locals.com, 15 works of historical dream literature. And once again, Jesse, thank you for being here.
Thanks so much, Ben. This was an absolute pleasure.
And everybody out there, thanks for listening.